to Spectrum here on Radio. And tonight, what should the priorities of Ugandan political parties be after taking lessons in the 2011 elections? Our guests tonight, Mr. Gwada Ogot, is a political analyst and civil society activist, also based at CEDU. That's the Civil Coalition for on the election, the electoral democracy in Uganda. We're also joined on the line by Mr. Peter Wamboga Mugirya, a senior journalist. You'll be able to call in and ask questions before the end of this program. But before we get to that, Mr. Ogot, the NRM rotates around historicals of what in the Bush War, but we see some young people, call them young Turks, saying the old guard must begin to walk out and leave the young people to take over.
Thank you. That's a natural process, and you see the struggle that was led by the NRM in the bush has its stalwarts, and its stalwarts have been around for nearly 25 years. A lot of the people who are 1 year, 2 years or 3 years then are now grown-up people who can vote and who are able to make decisions about their country's future. And probably the greatest strength that a party can exhibit is if there can be an internal takeover or an internal change of power without the party splitting. Then that means that that party has got tenets that go beyond individual leadership. But if the party relies upon the character of an individual leader, then if the leader opts to step aside or if it's challenged, there may be a problem of discontent or splits. It has happened before that most parties that come in after such glorious activities, either in the bush or at independence, many of them do not thrive for very long. Look at what happened to KANU in Kenya.
In Kenya,
yes. It was killed by internal decadence, corruption, and the bad faith of its leadership. Look at what happened to Milton Obote and UPC. It was removed violently in an illegal but largely welcomed manner. You could also look at a different example of Tanzania, which I had mentioned some time back, that it survived based on the Ujamaa philosophy, that something that could bind and a script that people could read and be expected, a code of conduct that people were expected to operate within, that did not necessarily have to rely on the individual, but the individual at the helm could only symbolize it with his character. And that Nyerere did perfectly. So that there's a code that every citizen, rich or poor, lives within, and that people judge and see that truly you represent this code. This code can be branded in such a manner, like they called it to Ujamaa. It can be branded, it can be given life through people, it can be disseminated through barazas and vimezas and every other possible medium that is possible, or local debates as we did with the Face the Citizens campaign. That is critical. So it will be interesting to see how this will be received by the older generation, whether if the younger generation within the NRM come up, whether the older generation will truly come and act like patrons to them and guide them through the process, advisors, or whether they will have to be competed with and probably removed out of power, as has happened across with the ZANUs of the day, the KANUs of the day, and all the other postings.
ZANU, you're talking about Zambia, Zimbabwe.
Even Zimbabwe and Zambia also had a similar problem with Kenneth Kaunda's party. So that is something to look at very critically. Is there a credo that the NRMO stands for, that this young generation want to proceed with?
Let me ask you that question.
Yes.
Do you see any political party that has a code of conduct, that has a clear identity in terms of character, call it a set of values? Do we have it?
If it is there, it is in word and not in practice.
But do they even talk about it? It
is not built upon, because parties are supposed to, the definition of the character of a party lies upon something that has been put together, where you can find that a party can develop a character of saying that they are a people who are going to be humanitarian in their approach. They are going to focus on activities that benefit the lesser members of society, and in so be doing, they develop an identity that people would like to follow. A party with compassion, a party with a heart, and then people start seeing that will probably transform into leadership with a heart, leadership with compassion, leadership with empathy. That is given. 2, post-elections, and after we have talked about what the party needs to do, the very important and critical aspect is how do they need to do it? In a post-election scenario, are these parties still going to go it alone in whatever endeavors they undertake? Or are they going to form alliances with other political parties of like mind? Or are they going to form alliances with the ruling party? Or are they going to form alliances with civil society? And this becomes very critical, and for one reason. In a situation where one party has a dominant majority in parliament, the opposition political parties will find it very difficult to push through their policy issues. So a lot of the issues that we will be focused on have to, yes, have parliamentary presence, but have to be mobilized from without parliament. That is a very critical aspect of strategy. If you can't break through parliamentary vote, or alternatively, they are then therefore expected to develop policy proposals that they can push through with good speakers and advocates who can push this through agenda for them, that finds or that offers accommodation for part of the ruling party cadre for them to succeed. And you never know, in times you would find that when politics sometimes forms very strange alliances, and people can go it on their own as individuals or as a small cabal within a political party that believes in a specific ideal.
Right.
You may also look at how would they like to push it. Would they like to, if they remove it outside of parliament and probably expect public support and approval in the course of their activities, would they like to do it through a referendum? That's one.
All right.
Would they like to do it through peaceful public protest, non-violence campaigns?
Right.
Would they like to do it through rabble rounds? Really, the options are many, but they have to make those decisions within a party.
All right.
All the other parties, would they also, all these things, would they underscore, as Peter has rightfully said, the issue of civic empowerment?
Right.
That would come in handy if it comes in as a strategic part of their whole initiative. Right. Then civil society becomes a very key partner, okay, because of the networks and facilitation that enable this to happen.
All right.
Three, and lastly, there was an issue that came up here.
Yes,
the issue of Betty Kamya,
yes,
and her electoral process.
Right.
You will tend to find that if you give a examination of the last election,
yes,
you find that most of the political parties did not identify their core issue, the core issue, right, that would distinguish them from others. One of the issues that came out very loudly throughout the campaign was the issue of corruption.
Yes.
Another was education. Or the UPE and right, its dwindling standards. But then no party, while they were able to identify these as very core issues to the public and to the citizenry, right, none of them came up very clearly and brought in the flip side. What we will not do. Everybody said what the other side is doing. Right. Yes, there has been grand corruption here and there, but what are we going to do? And disseminate it so effectively that people begin to associate you with that particular message. Right. That was not clear.
Okay.
Two, I think that the candidate who had the best weapon, yes, in this campaign, yes, and rightfully, as Peter had said, was Betty Kamya. Right. Because the message of Federo seems to touch the hearts and minds across the region. Right. And that may also be a very key issue that may be factored in the constitutional reform exercise that we project. Okay. Yes.
All right. Let me come to you, Peter, the same question. The NRM leadership, most of them, it rotates around the historical support in the Bush War. But some people, young ones, they call themselves, you could call them young Turks. They think that the old guard should begin to leave, and so the young men can run the show. Hello, Peter? Are you still with us? Well, okay. We'll try to get Peter on the line again. We seem to have lost him. Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's continue. Let's talk about the FDC. Mm-hmm. There seems to be a power struggle inside of the party. Mm-hmm. Is that a healthy thing, or is it going to destroy the party?
I do not want to call it a power struggle as yet. What you can say that there has been various proposals, or two proposals by two members of parliament. It was Regan Okumu and Nandala Mafabi, yes, who proposed new leadership, the requirement for new leadership in the FDC. That is all very well, but FDC as a party has organs through where these discussions can be made. All right, we've got Peter on the line. Let's get him to respond to the first question. Peter. Hello, Peter. Yeah, we're lost, but the question is the NRM. We know that it rotates mostly around historical support in the Bush War, but some young people are saying the old ones should leave and leave the running of the party to the young people. Is that possible?
Edmond, it's important to understand the population structure of Uganda. the youth are about 60% or so in terms of percentage of population of the country. And the younger people than the below the youth bracket are even bigger. And we have the type of population where the birth rate is so high. So as a science...
Hello? Peter, we seem to have lost you there.
Hello, Edmond?
Yes, Peter, go on.
You hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, go on.
Yeah, I was saying that we need to understand how we can start as political parties. They must tap into this human resource, but also not mere everything, but they should specifically develop programs. For instance, in neighboring Kenya, we have the National Youth Development Centers. We should see how we help these youth, even if they fall out of primary 7, primary 4, senior 6, and the university. We should see how they are helped to develop skills, technical skills, in order to be able to be resourceful people for the country. And they must be seen, they must see that they are recognized as a very important section of the population, and that they can make a contribution currently as a youth, and then better leaders and better mature people of the country. And they will see these political parties as very big drivers for their future lives. So we should see parties develop strategies of how to engage the youth. Right. Engagement of civil society organizations and institutions of the higher learning. We should see development of, for instance, think tanks in political parties. If the politicians are busy, do they have strategists who are working on national programs, who are looking out for what is important to the country, the issues of climate change, issues of HIV/AIDS, issues of food security. These are very critical issues for Uganda and for developing countries. We see political parties do this. But just to wind up on this issue, development of alliances. You remember the Mulungushi Club in the Eastern and Southern African region?
Yes.
The Uganda People's Congress then may have learned a lot of new ideas and lessons from, say, UNIP of Zambia then, CCM of Tanzania, the KANUs and TANUs then, through the Mulungushi Club, they developed very good working relationships across the borders. And this should be done by political parties now. Why not? If a political party picks on the regional integration as one of the key issues it wants to drive, we should look beyond the national borders as political parties.
Well, interesting perspective there, Peter. Let's go straight to our listeners. You can call in now. Our telephone number 0414-348-111, 0312-260-390, 0791-909-909. Our question is, what should the priorities of Ugandan political parties be after taking lessons from the just concluded elections? Spectrum, hello. I'll ask you when you call in to tell us your name and where you are calling from. Hello?
Hello?
Your name, sir?
My name is Agaba Abbas. Thank you for the discussion this evening. My brief comment, I think that the party now, the parties need to prioritize the issue of unemployment, especially for the young people, as well as economic empowerment. It's not enough to say that the youth should take charge of the political parties. Of course they should, but the youth should be given